How would you like to eliminate internal blocks stopping your business growth? Debbie Longo will tell us how. And what's so special about Debbie is she's an executive behavioral coach with over 24 years of experience helping entrepreneurs and business leaders shift mindset, eliminate internal blocks, and scale with clarity. And she's the host of Behavioral Profit and the Six Figure Shift Show, and specializes in turning leadership behaviors into business breakthroughs. So, Debbie, that's a really fascinating conversation we're going to have about eliminating internal blocks. And there are millions of people around the world struggling with that, including me. And I think that if people could eliminate these internal blocks, millions of more people could be at a much higher level in life. So it's a very interesting thing you're going to talk about. So tell us more about that. How can someone do that? Heal Podcast with Lily Patrascu shares longevity and anti-aging techniques to stay young forever, increase energy, overcome addiction, and live your longest, best life ever. Shared by world's most innovative, alternative, and traditional health thought leaders, healers, and doctors. Discover quantum healing strategies to heal your mind, body, and soul.
Well, my background is executive coaching, currently is what I'm doing. But originally, I started as a life coach. So I have a lot of experience in a lot of different areas, and I've done a lot of coaching with all different types of people, from regular individual families, big families, small families, going right to the business and the corporation. So this is a very, very important topic because this really goes to the heart of what almost everybody, in my own view, right? I don't know what everybody is thinking, but from my experiences, this goes really to the heart of what people do today, how they turn out as adults, and that they will take that attitude, that behavior, that mindset into their workplace and whatever they become in their life, right? So this all starts at childhood, right? Most of the time. And I'm not a therapist, and I'm not going to go into, somebody's childhood, and what happened. That's not what I'm here for. But the result, right? Let's talk about the result for a second, okay? That is going to be all of a lot of things combined. And there's also trauma, right? So this is normal things that most people have: death in families, divorces, different things. And sometimes the childhood, what people go through and the trauma that they have, and this is just one example out of many, okay? That is things that they hold on to, and they cannot or will not or just don't know how to get rid of those things, okay? And that creates a problem, okay? It's not something that I can just say, okay, close my eyes, it happened, it's over and done with. Because unfortunately, that's not how the human brain works. We tend to remember things, and our mind is a lot like a computer, okay? So did you ever hear of, if I erase something in a computer or I delete something, it's never really gone? Okay, it's always there 9 times out of 10, and you could always find it. And that's the way the human brain works, right? So we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, and those memories stay there, right? And I never thought that. I always thought that they just went away, okay? And that's not true, because as I do things in life, sometimes things come up, and those things may be something that's similar to a trauma that I've had. And those things, hold on, sorry about that. And a lot of times those things come up, and, like, let's say like a trauma or something that I've had, right? And when that happens, I remember. So if something happened in my life, currently that is similar to something that happened in my past, something negative, right? That happened in my past. Okay. I'm not talking about things that are positive, right? We're trying to fix all the negativity and all these different things, right? Those two things will connect in my brain. Okay. This is just automatic, this is not something that I really like think about or whatever, right? But when those two things connect, and this happens for all different reasons, then I start to act out. Okay. I get angry. I get upset. Maybe I start to cry. Maybe I get, just very defensive. Okay. And when these things happen, that affects everything, my life, my family, my children, my career, where I work, right? So if I am not trained properly, not only to be able to get rid of those things, which I also do, okay? I don't do them in a psychology way. I don't believe in psychology. This is a completely different direction than the way that people are familiar with, right? The way that a lot of people are familiar with doing these things, okay? Getting rid of these things and different things, right? So when those two things connect, then that can create a problem. So the point is that I want to find out, right? If I'm angry today and I go to work every day and I'm just lashing out at everybody and I'm, angry at my boss and I'm obnoxious to people and I always have something to say, right? And I'm always battling people, okay? I want to find out that's not the problem. Okay. A lot of people think, okay, we'll fix that. That's not the problem. Okay. I want to get to what is the problem. And I want to find out, why is that person thinking that? Why is that person doing that? Why are they acting out? And then they might say, oh, this person, just said something that upset me or something. Okay. But now I want to play the tape back. Okay. And I'm going to play it back. So you know what a good trick to that is? And you could do that yourself. Anybody that's watching could do this yourself. You ready? Every time you give yourself an answer, turn it into a question. Okay, ask a question. So then I give an answer and then I ask another question. And then I give an answer and then I ask another question. And I keep doing that. And as I do that, time goes back, right? So a child might say, Daddy, they might see the moon in the sky. And the child might say, Daddy, what's that? And the father goes, that's the moon. And then the child doesn't say, okay, the child will ask another question, right? And then they'll say, well, how did the moon get there? And then the father will say, oh, it's astronomy or whatever, right? And then he'll give like a simple answer. And then the child will say, well, what is astronomy? Right? So they're not going to say, because they always are looking for another answer. Okay, so that's the thing. And then when you keep asking, where did the moon come from? You're gonna maybe go back. You know what I mean? Unless the father will say, I don't know. But if he does, you can go back and back and back, right? And then you're gonna get maybe all the way back, to somewhere in time. Okay, right? So this is what I want to find out. And this is why. Okay, this is just one example. This is why businesses fail. They go bankrupt. CEOs, executives get fired. Okay, they quit their job. They're asked to leave. And the businesses go out of business. And then they say, oh, it's the economy. It's a pandemic, right? I can't afford to buy things for my store. Okay. But again, that's not the reason, because what's going to happen? They're going to go and take that same behavior that they failed. That might not be the reason why. Okay. But they failed, right, in their company, right? Because who's responsible for the company? Are the employees responsible? No, the employees could just leave. You know what I mean? They just come and go. Turnover exists, in any company, right? So the CEOs and the executives are responsible for maybe that company is in the stock market, so they're responsible for increasing sales and profits every year, so their dollars can go up, right, every day in the stock market. And then people will say, oh, this is a great company, they're doing great, their dollars go up, and then and then everybody buys, and then their dollars go up and up, right? So that's what they're going to say, but I don't want to hear that, because that's not the reason. Okay, because they're going to take that same behavior, that same attitude that they had, their company failed, and they're going to take that behavior and bring it into the next company that they work in. And what's going to happen then? They're going to make another excuse. They're going to get fired, or they're going to be asked to step down, or they're going to be asked to leave, right? Let's make a mutual agreement, right? We're not going to fire you. You're doing a horrible job, okay? We can't afford you anymore, We're not going to fire you, okay? But now we want you to just walk out, all right? And that's it. So now, what is that behavior that brought that person to that point? Okay. And that is what we're really trying to look at. Now, this is a personal thing. So what I do is I make a plan, right, which is personal to that individual, to that situation. Okay. And they explain to me a lot of things. They fill out a survey. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. And that's how I'm going to find how to get to the actual problem. And you're going to see, I've been doing this a long time, their whole entire life will change. It's a no-brainer. It definitely will.
Thank you. Give us 10 commandments for someone to eliminate internal blocks, stopping them from making sales and from their business growth.
They can stop thinking the way that they think. They can create the willingness to stop that. They can get a coach. They can realize that they're doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And what's the definition of that? Insanity. Okay. They can understand that they need to do this in order to help their children, in order to help their family. Every time they leave a job, they're not making money. They lost money. They lost a paycheck that week. They lost a bonus, okay, because they don't work for that company anymore, all right? They can understand that they are losing money and they are not helping their family financially. Maybe their kids want to go to school. They can't afford it because the husband is going through jobs like there's no tomorrow. They can try to help their employees that they work for, okay, that they work with. They can be the better person. They can go above and beyond. They can look for things, issues, things that come up in their work that they can maybe give some insight on. They can talk to their boss and ask them, I saw this happen. Maybe we could try this and this instead. Would you be open to something like that? So basically, it's about using your brain. And I want to know, how far do people go beyond what their regular job duty is to do something positive that they want to do, that they're not asked to do, they're not forced to do it, okay? They want to do it. They go and they look to do things beyond their realm, beyond the way that they do things normally, okay? It's not a 9-to-5 job. Because when I make it that, I'm not going to get that much out of it. And again, this is just from my experience for working with people. The person, the viewer, whoever is viewing this podcast, they could take it however they want. They could take it, they could leave it. Okay, that's completely up to them. Okay, but I'm expressing my experiences, my thoughts, my thought pattern from 25 years of doing this. And that's a long time because I work with a lot of people.
Thank you. Imagine an entrepreneur who has the mindset that, let's say, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or I don't know, I'm not pretty enough, or I don't know, some other limiting belief. Give us an example of how someone would start to eliminate that and replace it with perhaps an empowering one that is fueling and not stopping their business growth so they can be empowered to make high ticket sales.
Right. So this is very, very important because this is all about negativity. And this is what people do every day. Okay. I'm not good enough. I will never make it. They look for jobs online. Okay. And while they're looking for the job, they say, I'm not going to find a job. Now, what is that going to do? So if I'm looking for a job, that's a positive thing. So I want to continue that with a positive statement. I don't want to look for a job and then while I'm doing that, tell myself I'm not going to find a job. Okay. That's not going to make it. So there are a few things that a person can do. Okay. This is a process. Now, I can help them if they really, really want to do it on their own. It's very, very easy to do, but there's a few tricks to it. Okay. The first thing is that when I type something on the computer, like I'm typing on a Word doc or something, right? And I say, this word I don't want. So I press the delete button and the word goes away. So what happens is when I have a negative thought or I say that I'm not good enough, I'm not going to get a job, I'm not going to get a promotion, okay? That is stuff that I want to cancel out. So the negative thought is going to be gone, okay? Because the idea is for me to come in with no thought at all, okay? And this is all stuff that I teach. So what's going to happen is every time I get a negative thought, when I say these things, I say cancel, just like I'm pressing the delete button on the computer because I don't want that word that's on the Word doc that I just typed on the Word doc. Okay. So now I'm deleting, delete, delete, delete. And I'm doing that every single time I have a negative thought. Not only these types of thoughts, any negative thought. Okay. Because the trick is if I don't do that, then what's going to happen? I'm going to have a negative thought and then I'm not going to delete that one. And then I'll have another one. So if I delete a negative thought every time I do it, it'll be gone. Now, what I want to do is the object is to replace that negative thought with a positive one. Okay. So then I say, delete, I'm not going to get this job, delete, I am going to get the job. And when I do that, that's a very easy thing. Anybody could do that. But the trick is you have to do it with every thought, okay? Which is, it's a skill. You know what I mean? It takes a while. So when I do that, then the thoughts are gone. They're not going to come back. Okay, providing that I do it every time that happens. And then I'm working only on a positive mindset.
Wow, that sounds great. Tell us, what other mindset shifts can entrepreneurs leverage that will enable them to eliminate internal blocks and to start empowering themselves for business growth?
Well, to mention a few other brief things, okay? I touched on doing things beyond your 9 to 5 job. But another thing that I want to look at when I'm working is what are my employees doing that are negative? What are my employees doing that are going to hinder and hurt the company eventually? It might not be happening now, okay? But it will, 9 times out of 10, it will eventually happen. And I need to figure out how I'm going to solve that problem. Okay. I don't want my company to go down the tubes. And I'm going to say also, in a big company, if you're an executive, you don't own that company, there's a good chance you're on the board. Okay. And you paid money to be on that board. Okay. So, you have a stake in it, just like the regular CEO. Okay. There's a lot of responsibility. Okay. When you're a CEO like that. And even if you're not, your boss is on the board. Okay. So, you're high up there. So, I want to know now, what is a positive way that I can help that employee to stop doing what they're doing, okay? Otherwise, they're going to take down the company and it's not going to be a good scenario. They're going to get fired and it's not going to be good. And as an executive, I know this already. I've been through this. You can just play the tape, but I don't want to say, come into my office. If you don't stop doing this, you're going to get fired. You're going to get written up. That's not what I want to say. That's not positive. Does that sound positive? I want to know, how am I going to help that person? How am I going to fix the problem? I'm not a therapist. You know what I mean? An executive is not somebody who's, going to do what I do, get into the person's mind, different things like that. Okay. They're just not going to do that. And that's not their job anyway. Right. But I want to find ways to approach it in a positive way. And also, I have another thing that I want to say. Okay. I want to be honest. I don't want to. Now, a lot of people work from home, right? So they don't work in an office. Okay. But I want to be honest. I don't want to lie. I don't want to stretch the truth. I don't want to omit things. All of that is all being dishonest. I want to make sure that I am practicing what I preach. So if I'm honest and my employee is dishonest, then I want to say, then I could show them how to be honest, okay? I could show them how to be a better person than what they are, okay? And then they're going to take that to their home. But if I'm dishonest and I'm stealing and I'm lying, right, and I'm omitting things, then I cannot teach that employee how to be honest, okay? Because I don't know how. Okay. So these are really, like, somebody might be like an executive might be listening to this and they might say, this is like ridiculous. It's basic stuff. But ask yourself, do you do these things? Right. And if a business owner or a CEO or an executive can really take their inventory, okay, and really, really look at what they do, write down what you do every day in your normal day, whether it's virtual, in-person sales, what, it doesn't matter what it is, okay? Because either way, you're dealing with another human being. If you're on an island all by yourself, then you probably have nothing to worry about, but it's not like that on Earth. We deal with people all the time, okay? So write it down, take your inventory, all right? And then you could really see what is really going on.
Thank you. Tell us where entrepreneurs can connect with you.
I am on probably every social media, platform there is. I have a website, lifeinbloomny.net, and I have LinkedIn. Okay, I have a profile on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram. So there's a lot of places. The website has my phone number, my email. Okay. So, and I also have podcasts, like you mentioned. So, there's a lot of places. It's not that difficult. It's pretty easy to get in touch with me.
Thank you. Follow me for more interviews with world's most innovative health change makers to live your healthiest life ever.